need one of these. I need one of these so bad. Bro, what the fuck? I can't even drive right now. This is delightful. Oh my god.
Through into the lead. It's past Alain Prost 2. The McLaren leads. Prost second. Hill is third. A tremendous gap between the third and fourth cars.
Brilliant couple of corners by Ayrton Senna. Tremendous stuff. He muscled his way back into contention at Redgate. He's going inside James Hill.
That's what we're driving today. Finally, behind the wheel of a 600 LT. We're probably the same height.
I'm 5'8".
It's the best height you can be. That's good. Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally located a 600 LT. Shout out Ian, who you cannot see. I'll have his information linked down below. I was recently at a Fastlane Drive event at the track with one of my clients. Ian is one of the founders of the Arizona chapter for Fastlane Drive, and also happens to be good friends with my roommate, who he had mentioned to me before. It was a weird thing. Paths crossed. I've done a review on a 620R. I don't know what it is with my fascination with the 600 LT. I've driven a lot of McLarens, never an LT car, and the 620R was like the closest thing I could get into one of these, but to me it seemed more like a 570 GT3 than the LT 600 platform. So we're out here in Cave Creek, Arizona, and I'm very excited. If I fall in love with this car, I will be more poor eventually. We'll open windows eventually because you probably care more to hear the car than me. But lucky for us today, he happens to live in the only area of Arizona that has good driving roads, unless you go up to like Lake Saguaro or Canyon Lake. Let's do some quick specs on this car. This has what, 650 horsepower?
Just over 600. I mean, the way they end up naming McLarens is based on the
That's actually
amount
very
of
good
horsepower
point you make, but I feel like it's never actually accurate.
It's like, I don't know.
But it's usually less, huh?
It's like plus or minus a couple, so it might be like 612 or...
Okay, so 600 horsepower, not even gonna guess torque, probably high fours, mid fives, I'm guessing, since it's turbo. It's pretty similar V8 twin turbo platform as most of the McLarens go. But the best thing about this car is it's just the exhaust. Like literally,
Especially at night.
any car that shoots flames from factory has my heart, has my approval. I was never really a fan of the 570 platform. I actually don't like the 570S. I don't hate driving it, I just don't think it looks very good. I've always been more a fan of the 720 platform, but for some reason that I can't explain, I love this car.
Well, you get to see the exhaust in your rearview mirror. No other cars like that, and when you're driving it at night, it's just like breathing fire the whole time.
And with an exhaust, he's running catless?
Yeah,
or
just catless downpipes, that's
Okay.
it. No tune.
That.
Yeah.
570s don't do that. 720s kind of do it. Not as much. I recently spent time in a 720S Spider, and I've learned that, like we were talking, they're so similar. I could go through all the things in this car, the way it drives, the way it feels, the transmission, they're not far off.
Yeah.
It's like how quick, how much power does it make? These are going to be probably a little slower than a 720S. But again, it's...
You can rip these things through the corners, though.
Yeah, this probably drives on track and around corners. Does it drive better than the 720?
If you were to put a little bit more power in this, it would probably be faster than the 720 on the track.
I think so.
I've driven the 720 extensively, and this is a more fun car to drive. It's a bit more lively.
And the 765 LT is just a different ballgame.
Yeah, that's a fun car. I've also been in that one.
I feel like that's like the closest thing to a hypercar for a supercar.
Yeah,
really.
so one of my buddies that has one also has a Senna, and he says it's 9/10 of the Senna, and less than half the price point. That's his
Well, it's fast. Dude, that is, I don't know why I just say that. You know, 570S I've spent time on canyons, but any other McLaren I review, I don't.
So
this is
you
like
got the best
pinnacle.
roads to experience this car, no doubt.
One thing I noticed too, when I was in a 620R, the cushions on the Senna seat were so tight.
Yeah.
I couldn't move. Are there sizes?
Yeah, so you can get these in like the regular size, which this is, or you can get it in a, slightly more puffy, I guess.
This is, for people like me and you, I don't know, maybe you're larger than me. I'm like falling out of this thing.
Yeah.
What's that noise, by the way?
It's from the track day when we took some air out of the tires.
Oh, God. McLarens behave electronically. I get they have the worst issues ever. Buying one is terrifying. We salute you for having the courage to do so. They are my favorite road cars to drive.
Yeah, dollar for dollar, it's gonna wipe the floors with all the other manufacturers.
And I'm a P car guy, and so I think Porsche has its own reason for why it's so sought after.
Yeah.
They just are. Even in like the driver's standpoint, raw, road feedback, all those things, they do win. I'd say the only thing with McLaren is it does the best job of giving you a race experience for the road while maintaining like drivability. Like you can cruise this car day to day. It's not the end of the world. It's kind of similar. I'd say Porsche even drags you around the road more. This car's like pretty mellow. Like I don't even really need to have my hands on. They're just so special.
Yeah, I notice it in the steering rack with McLarens. Like the steering is generally a lot more precise.
Yeah.
You know, I've driven a 488 fast lane drive event in LA, so I've got some good miles in it in the canyons, and the steering was just like nowhere near as good as the McLaren.
I love the brake. I hate and I love the brake pressure McLarens. Super hard to press, which is very race to me. And it feels, it's analog, it feels nice. You know what you're getting when you press the brakes.
Yeah.
Some other cars, the brakes are just like kind of annoying. This car, you actually have to brake, and it's like progressive with how much it stops as it gets harder to brake.
Yeah.
Which, from a feedback perspective, I think is good, and it feels nice. That literally sounds absurd. The seat makes me look like I have terrible posture, guys. I swear to God, I'm an upright man. This just seems like the sweet spot for McLaren from price point, driver experience, capability,
And rarity.
collectability. Like it's such a perfect package to me. And like I do like the looks of the 720, but now that the LT car came out, I'm starting to like them less. Something about the front bumper on the 720, like the chassis shape is perfect to me. I love that, and I always will. Gives that actual like long tail.
Yeah.
I don't want to say P1 because that is the most beautiful vehicle ever, but it gives me that vibe, whereas this doesn't. This over a 720S looks wise, in my opinion. Maybe a very hot take, especially coming from a 570S hater.
Yeah.
I think the 570 looks horrendous for some reason.
I think this is their most aggressive looking McLaren.
Well, 765 is fucking absurd in my opinion. To me, it's just the sweet spot. Prices on these are kind of nice right now. Unfortunate for you, but secondhand market on these, I don't know if it's at its floor right now. I know for a little while you could literally get one of these right over 200 grand.
Yeah.
Which is
It depends on your
such
spec.
a car.
I think long term these things have potential just because this is kind of like the last era in which we're making like fully gas powered cars.
It's so good. Here, let's do a little window run here.
There we go.
You guys don't care to hear me anymore. I get I'm getting boring. It's fine. These seats are so big. I'm like, definitely feels so much more raw than a 720.
Yeah.
720 is a lot smoother, but like, I don't really want smooth when I'm banging through a car like this. That's so good. I appreciate you letting me come out and run this one. Is redline like 8K in this car?
Yeah.
That's like really late for a turbo. I really do think if I had 250 grand in my bank account ready to go on a car, I would have a really hard time not buying this.
Yeah.
It seems like I can't imagine a better car for the money than this. I love the V10 cars, but it's not going to be the same. No Huracan, no R8
Yeah, you kind of blend in with a Huracan because everyone's got them.
It also just doesn't drive like this. They are great. I love every time I get in a V10 car, it's great.
Yeah.
But it's not raw like this. It doesn't handle this way. There's really no cool Ferrari.
I feel like it's a bit more like daily drivable.
The
Like,
Huracan?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this isn't miserable.
No,
And
it's
if
not.
I'm dropping 250K, I can have something else that's going to be mellow. I wouldn't want to have utter drivability. Like this is drivable.
Yeah.
There's cars that I just wouldn't do because drivability is a compromise. But like, I'm not gonna spend 250 grand on a GT Cruiser because I want to be able to drive it too. I don't care.
Yeah, that's very true.
Sorry to cut you off. It sounds so good. I would just buy this car for the sound of it, to be honest. Especially for a turbo car.
It's quite loud for a turbo car.
Like, that's insane. I mean, it's a V8. Like, turboed V8s to me are the best setup of a turboed engine. F8 or the Pista. That engine sounds way too good for having a turbo. This is just more of like an analog race car note in my mind.
I agree.
It's just like amount of noise.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of noise. Whereas like the Ferrari, in my opinion, does a spectacular job of maintaining an actual V8 note with turbos.
Yeah.
The Pista to me is, I've been in F8, modded F8. My friend Steven pure turboed his. One of the most exciting cars all around, in my opinion. But again, it's 400 grand, 500 grand, so.
Pistas did do a good job of holding their value, though.
Oh yeah, again, that's the pinnacle of car for me to drive. Like, I need to drive a Pista. The 812 Competizione looks like a sick car too. Yay, no more cars. This is fun, guys. We don't need to hurt your skid plate if we don't need to. We got him. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. This is absurd. Bro, what the fuck? I can't even drive right now. This is delightful. Oh my God. It's time for my summary, my final thoughts. It's as expected. The car is exactly as good as I thought it was going to be. I don't think it's a hot take. I think it's a cold take. I would take it over a 720S. Now, I've never driven a modified 720S, but this isn't modded either besides downpipes. So it's just so much more like vigorous and raw than a 720. When I'm beating on it, I don't feel like, oh, this car's sluggish. Like, it feels equally as quick as a 720. Now, I'm not going to speak for a 765 LT. That's like 500 racks, 600 racks. So it is as good as I thought. I enjoyed, especially in the canyons, driving it so much. As of right now, this is my stance, and you know I'm a big Porsche lover. I don't think for $250,000 there's a better car. Out the gate, especially. I just don't. I'm trying to think of many more, but I can't. I love all the NAV10s. They're just not as precise. They're not as much of a weapon as this is. Anything above that I'm thinking of is going to be in the $400,000 range, like the F8 or the Pista, or like I said, a 765 LT. Like, I think if you're looking for a road car that's going to give you a race car vigorous experience that's still somewhat usable, that's your car. That's a good road track car combo, and maybe the best you're going to find. Cheers. Have a good one.